Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Draw 1 of the women's event in the 2018 Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championships here at the Lakeshore Curling Club in Sackville, Nova Scotia, and presented to you on Bell TV 1. I am Selena Thompson, joined by Anthony Purcell. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Selena.
So we're looking forward to a good game here. Team Stephanie Carson taking on Isabelle Ladouceur. And we're just getting ready to get things started. See the teams out making their way down to the other end of the sheet. Team Carson will have hammer. Teams had pregame practice followed by draw to the button. And Carson's team was, I'll say, a little bit closer. I think they had a pretty good draw there right to the button. So they'll have hammer. And up first, we'll have Michaela Harnish.
So I will say the ice conditions here, they're very quick. My son actually played on the morning draw. Actually, it'd be the afternoon draw at 4. And the ice conditions are fast. The ice is somewhat straight. But in general, you do have finish on the rocks, but you got to throw the rock to the sweepers. And if you throw the right weights, you can get good draws and some pretty decent shot making. So it should be a good game.
Yeah, it was in the boys' game that I was calling earlier. Everyone was throwing a little heavy, and I was getting 14 seconds hog to hog, and those were heavy stones, so I could only assume they didn't get a good read on some of the good draws. It was closer to 15 seconds, and that might have been what you were seeing on your sheet as well.
Yeah, it probably took I'd say about the third end. Both teams actually started to adjust a little bit more, but anyway, it's once they get into it, they there's some good shots to be made, so it should be good.
And here we have for Team Carson, we'll introduce the two teams as we get going here. It's Stephanie Carson, the skip. Third, Isabelle Reeves. Second, Madison Dahl. And lead, Megan Bellon. They have an alternate, Julie Carson. And they curl out of the Berwick Curling Club.
Actually, I was told that they curl at a Windsor Curling Club.
Oh, well, I'm going to correct that in their little booklet.
Shane tapped me on the shoulder and made sure I addressed that. So I think there's some people watching from Windsor tonight. So,
well, hello everyone from Windsor that's watching, and we have alternate Julie Carson, and then of course you mentioned Coach Shane Carson, and I can't say no relation with all those Carson names, as they're all curlers in that family. And then Team Ladouceur, we have, I mentioned Skip Isabelle. Third, Emily Prue. Second, Kate Callahan. Lead, Michaela Harnish. And their alternate is Elsa Noss. And they curl out of the Lakeshore Curling Club, which is where these championships are hosted. And to get things off, we've just had the first stone from Michaela thrown into the rings. And then we've had hits ever since. And this is typically what you'll see. It's the first draw of this event. And just teams often calm their nerves by keeping things a bit clean. You don't want to get it too complicated and give up a big end. Neither team wants to do that, so we have the hit game right now.
I would say that's pretty smart, just to kind of just feel your way through it, and you'll probably see a few more draws maybe around the second or third end here, but certainly not a bad way to start off.
No, and they are 10-end games, so if you come down to it, 10 full ends will take about 2.5 hours plus a fifth end break. We did have an extra end in the earlier draw, the men's draw, and 38 minutes of thinking time. And what you can't see on the cameras is the clocks running. So for a lot of these teams, it might be the first time that they're playing with the clocks, and it's thinking time. So you can't spend too long thinking about what your shots are. It keeps the pace of the game up. You see this hit over curl and roll. I don't know if it's going to roll all the way out.
What I notice in the other draw, and I'm sure it's going to be much the same here, is that the rocks are pretty easy to maintain the line with the sweeping. So, you can't throw the rocks really outside. If anything, you want to maybe throw it a little tight if you are a little bit off target, and the sweeping can actually hold the line very good on this ice. So far so good with these guys, and everybody seems to be on target with their hits. So
And I think there's a good example of that. Maybe a little full to the broom, and it just doesn't Doesn't give itself a chance. Unless Stephanie just indicating there maybe the weight was a bit up.
So I see Isabel here. She's, again, calling the shot to be into the 4-foot. A little bit of a conservative play, but again, it's first end. There's no need to go too aggressive at the beginning here, and just kind of feeling out the ice.
It's also a good chance to get your draw weight. The teams both have practice, but things change, as we all know, when we start playing, and you wear down a few more passes in the ice. So it's a really good chance for a team to get to throw a draw as well.
So again, not flaring anything out there, just nice and soft weight to the broom, and pretty easy to hold the line. So good shot there.
Yeah, and that was second Madison Dahl.
So Emily's Prue's coming out now to throw her stone.
You always hate to give the other team a free draw, eh? So it's really important. As much as you think, oh, it doesn't matter to roll out, they're really trying to carve these stones a little bit with these regulation broom heads and get the stone to stick around. But that one will roll out, so we'll go the other way and give a free draw to Team Carson and Emily Reeves. Sorry, Isabel Reeves. I'm losing my mind.
I didn't want to correct you, but that's okay.
To be fair, Emily just threw on the other team.
That's right.
Anthony is much more familiar with the junior teams than I am. You got more skin in the game. You're at the events and you see them all the time, and so I'm learning as I go. I only know a couple of the teams.
Oh, I know them all by first name, so it's great actually. Over the years, I've seen a lot of these, actually really all of them, grow into be great curlers, and the fact that they're here at an under-21 is not by fluke. All of these teams have put in numerous of hours of practice and all the extra rocks and all the tournaments, and this is the result. You end up being a competitive team and playing for something that I think all these junior teams would love to do, and that's go to a national junior. But it's great to see. I basically know, I think I know all of them by first name, so it's a fun event.
And that was Kate Callahan. Oh, sorry, that was Emily Prue.
Do you want me to take over?
Oh man. It's been a long day, I think.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm looking and going, oh yeah, third name on the list. Except the alternates are in there too.
So Isabel Reeves, she's throwing hers down here, and this one here seems to be hanging a little straight. And we have our first miss at the end, so gives Isabel Ladouceur's team a chance to put some pressure on and potentially put the force in play. So yeah, so I suspect that she'll be either playing a tap or maybe even playing a guard. But I think that rock is probably a little too high to guard it, so she's probably, with that ice, I think she's playing a tap.
Yeah, it's definitely the safe way to play, and it's with that that miss from Isabel Reeves. That's not the first time this end. We've seen, I think that's the third rock that hung wide, and maybe the teams aren't adjusting quite enough to the up weight, going a little straighter, so it's a good chance to learn that. I was watching the men's game earlier, and then we did notice that outside the 4 foot it was a little straighter, and especially with the up weight.
Yeah, tight and light is the way to actually miss on this type of ice. It's if you're heavy and wide, it's not a good combination.
So you see this one, same thing, little extra weight, and doesn't even manage to tap the stone, and with that extra weight, slides right through. So exactly what you said. Tighten up the ice a little bit here. Stephanie Carson going down to throw. I got that one right.
You're bound to eventually.
Wahoo. I know I've gone through all the other names, so I'll figure it out. Sometimes it helps because their names are on the back of their jerseys, and I just need to pay attention to. And in case you're watching or paying attention, we'll keep you updated on the other game that's out there, and that's Calissa Daly taking on Kaylee Nodding. There are 6 teams in this championships, and so these 2 games, the winner will move on in the A bracket to play either Callie Moore's team or, I want to say Kristen Clark, but it is now Caitlin Jones. Yeah. 2 more names that I know. That's fantastic.
You're getting there.
Apologies to people who are watching if I'm screwing up a little bit. I'll get there. So successful hit. So we still have an open end here.
So you see the ice that they're taking. It's basically right on the middle of the rock, and what we noticed this, in this afternoon's game, really that's all you need. You can put it basically on the center of the rock. Maybe throw board, or maybe just a here up from board, and the sweepers can definitely hold the line. So the finish seems to be really when the weight really starts to come off the rock. So as long as you're not wide, it's all good.
And that's a good thing that they did play that down weight with the tight ice, because that's still hit on the high side of the rock. And Anthony and I aren't right behind the sheet, so we can't see the line when the players are throwing. And a lot of players are learning, and because we're used to thinking about, getting up into national championship ice and having that late finish and nice curl, is throwing a nice positive release. So on a little bit straighter ice, this has late finish. And there was some good finish I was watching with the draw weight, but they're really not getting that with the up weight. So with the rollout there from Isabel, Stephanie will just pitch this one through. Watch that path one more time. And we'll have our first end result in a blank. So Carson will carry the hammer into 2. And we had a blank on our other sheet as well in the Daily Nodding game.
So it'll be interesting what happens here now. We've got Michaela Harnish setting up into the hack. Not sure if I saw the call, if she was calling for the guard or for the draw. But again, as Selena said, a lot of the time what you'll notice is in early draw in a provincial, a lot of teams may play a little conservative for the first couple ends, but we'll see where this ends up, see if it's a guard or into the 4-foot.
And usually the skips won't even indicate the call when they go down to the house, because they'll have talked about it in their between ends
for sure. Yeah.
Team talk. So they're calling this to be top 4. I think Isabel thought this one would run a bit straighter, but maybe they're learning here that it's with the up weight that it's running straighter,
yes.
And this one did curl across the center line by quite a bit. And I'd be tempted to put up a corner guard. That's not right on the center, but it is in the 4-foot, so that's why Stephanie's electing to call the hit here for Megan. So we'll see the other side of the sheet. And Megan's just sliding a bit up the center line there, so this one might curl. I don't think she quite got out to the broom on that one.
So this would be a really good opportunity for Isabel actually to put a tight guard, be in the free guard zone. Yeah, she could put it in the top 12, but personally I like something nice and tight to the rings, really put the pressure on the other team to really make a good shot. But we'll see where this ends up. I think she called it, I think, either tight or top 12.
Yeah, she did indicate tight, but then said top 12 is okay. And I think what that does is it puts the thought into your thrower's mind that heavy's okay, whereas I think light is the way to miss on that, like you said, due to the free guard zone. But this one's coming in. Maybe they can wrap it around. It's that heavy. Don't really want to leave them beside each other. So that'll go to the pin. So a little heavy there. So it's an open end, and you get away with a flashed rock when the other team puts one in and gives you the chance to get out the end. Now, I don't know if Stephanie called the double here. It's early in the end, and it would be a good chance to hit and roll in front of that shot stone on the button and maybe, generate a two-pointer in a different way without the use of corner guards.
Yeah, especially where it's so early in the end, it certainly wouldn't hurt to hit and roll right on top of the other rock and maybe put a little bit of pressure. Now, it looks like she's over curling once again, and she'll get the one that shot rock, but I guess the good thing on that shot is that the rocks are close together, so they are somewhat grouped. So on the next shot, there probably would be another chance for another double, but we'll see where this one ends up.
So this is Kate Callahan.
This one looks like it's curling a bit early.
And it does move across the center line in the earlier game. Yeah, that's really too bad. Holy cow. In the earlier game, we were getting it straight outside that 4 foot, but when it was crossing the center line, it did curl. So I think both teams here, Team Ladouceur, just because of a fresh spot and it taking the curl over that line. I think Team Carson, lead Megan, is just sliding up the line a little bit and not getting out to the broom, and it's grabbing that center line when they're expecting it to go straighter. But great chance with that miss to sit too early.
Yeah, and like you said, Selena, it's kind of hard for us to tell on release because we're not directly behind the sheet, so we can't tell if that's what's happened. My guess is that's what it was. I think it probably was more on release that it took off like that, but hard for us to know 100%.
That one was just heavy from Madison Dahl. So that one sailed through. That was about board weight, so she'll have to adjust. I'm guessing she wasn't throwing the draw to the button for last rock.
And it's tough, it's a lot of the clubs that are around here, some of them, you will get a variance of weights, and I personally find that this club has probably the best, ice surface around, just because of the speed and all that. And once you get used to being able to throw the right speed on this type of ice, you can do so much with it. Like, you're able to incorporate your sweeping and that sort of thing to really make some nice finish on some draws, even though the ice is a bit straighter, where the rock tends to glide even when it starts to curl. You can really get some good results. So the key is, again, you don't want to overthrow the rocks, and it's tough because I'm sure some of these teams they're adjusting to a little faster ice than they're accustomed to, but
yeah, if you're throwing that extra weight at home at your home club every game, it's very, very hard to slow it down.
But I mean, these people, I mean, they've played a lot and they'll get adjusted eventually. It's just might take an end or two. That's all.
And Team Carson, they curl at the Windsor Curling Club, which in my experience has
it's fast
quick ice too.
Yeah.
So I would say these Lakeshore and Windsor, the two clubs that I've noticed, certainly have the most consistently nice draw speed. I'll call it.
For sure, for sure.
So we're back into the hit game. And these teams aren't throwing big up weight. These are, 10-second hits, hog to hog.
And that's the type of weight you should be throwing in ice conditions like this. Get the sweepers involved into the shot, and you really don't need to throw any more than, say, a little bit more than board.
Yeah, board and control are very useful hit weights when you have the chance. If your sweepers can hold it. If you're
Yes.
on really curly ice, you sometimes
No.
have to up it.
Exactly. So that was Isabel Reeves throwing there. Isabel, I've seen her play quite a bit over in the juniors and whatnot. And I've always thought that she was a well-rounded curler. She's got a really good slide, very accurate, and I think it's a good addition to the Carson team.
And her counterpart is Emily Prue. Now, one's hanging wide. They were trying to get it to curl to stick around. Makes the takeout. Leaves the house open. I always find it funny. So we talk about these 10-end games being a longer game, and so you can afford yourself the ability to play it clean for a couple ends. But then you've kind of narrowed yourself down to an 8-end game if you blank 1 and 2, and all you have is an 8-end game left. So
now the good thing,
interesting.
Like you've mentioned earlier, is that when you do play an open end like that, you do bank time on your thinking time, and it's a less complicated 2 ends. I guess this is the second end, so it would be 2 ends that they would have banked a little bit of time. So if things start to get complicated later on, they can take a little bit more time to think through the complicated end. So
sure thing. And I believe 2 timeouts. You would know as a coach.
Yep. So
even
2 timeouts, 90 seconds, and sometimes they come in handy. Most of the time they do.
And these ends are not needed. Straight hit. The only discussion is the what weight and where do you put the broom.
Exactly.
So we're on to skip stones.
So Isabel Ladouceur is throwing here, and that's another curler in the junior ranks. As she gets a little bit older, I think you're going to hear her name a lot more. She's definitely an up-and-comer, and she's accomplished a lot. And, yeah, she's just a good all-around player who works hard. You'll see her in many clubs in Bridgewater. You'll see her in here in Lakeshore. She puts in the time, and she's definitely getting rewarded for the hard work that she's put in.
And you may have heard her name mentioned. I'll just give little details about Isabel. She's 17, been curling for 7 years. And she goes to Charles P. Allen, CPA in Bedford. But this team's been making a bit of noise because they're the first junior team to qualify for ever in Nova Scotia for the Women's Provincial Championship. So that'll be in January. They'll be at the Dartmouth Curling Club, unless, of course, they make their way through this and head to nationals. I don't know what happens then. But
if I was them, I think I'd take the trip to the nationals.
Yeah, me too.
So hit and roll out. Again, it's going to be a pretty simple end. Isabel will put one on. I guess they're trying to decide whether to put it on the 4-foot or off to the wing in a tricky spot. Hopefully get maybe a miss in one of those straight spots outside, but basically going to be a pretty simple end again. It should be a blank, but we'll see.
I'm just looking at our notes. So Team Ladouceur is coached by Brian Rafuse, who's also the ice maker here and for this event. And he is sitting doing his coaching duties. So he's making the ice and coaching this team, and he'll be coaching them at the women's provincials. Brian's from my hometown of Bridgewater, so he made the ice there and then made the ice when I moved here to Halifax here at this club.
He's a busy guy, that Brian.
You may have heard his name. He was in the Brier in 1996 and 2008, and
I think he actually lost 4 finals before he actually won his first tankard. So he's done a lot in the men's ranks in his day. I think he stopped playing in the provincial men's probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
but even at
long
that
ago.
time, I mean, he could play with the best. So he'd be a very good mentor for that team.
And what these players might lack in age and experience, that's what the coaches bring in. Brian with his resume, and then Shane Carson, having been a coach for 11 years, has a number of accomplishments under his belt as well, championships and silvers and bronzes, and has coached a number of teams in the junior ranks. And
that's what's so good about this sport.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just there's a lot of some of the accomplished curlers that have stepped up, and they're paying back to the sport. Like you got Paul Fleming, for example. He's coaching Ryan Abraham's team. Stu Cameron, who was an accomplished curler at one point, he's coaching Team Manual. Even on the women's side, there, like say, you got Shane Carson, who was very he was a very accomplished curler in his day. And giving back to the sport, and again, they have to get some credit for some of the development for these teams, more on the technical side and some of the strategy. But again, someone that really can help them, get over the hump on some of the strategy issues and that sort of thing. So they bring a lot to some of these junior teams, and so it's great to see.
So we did have our second blank end there. So we're in 3, and Team Carson will maintain last rock advantage. And Michaela's, I think this one's called in. It's over curling again, and sweepers are working hard to get it in, but I don't know if they're committed to the fact that it's going to get there. But you want to get it as tight as possible, because otherwise it's a corner guard for Team Carson.
And that's a tough one, because do you leave it maybe a little bit higher and leave it closer to the center line so that maybe you can use it as more of a center guard? Because at this point now, you got Stephanie, who will call to come around as a corner guard. So,
and with the way that Stephanie's called the first 2 ends, playing into the rings with the hits, she's happy to use that as a corner guard, and I think it's hard for the sweepers to keep that in mind when they're deciding whether to sweep or not.
And this one looks like it's going to be a little bit heavy. It's tough. They're getting used to the ice.
I think adrenaline sometimes has something to do with that too. You can be as comfortable with the quick ice as anything, and then you get your first game at provincials, and you just get that little extra oomph. So calming down, and that's where the coaches will come in too, right? They'll be watching this game, and I'm sure have their discussions after about, okay, what went right, what went wrong, what can we improve on, and what should we keep doing.
This one looks like it's a little closer to the right weight. Hard to tell for sure if that's going to get around the guard, but no, good line. But as you can see, it's still heavy. This would give I guess it's Stephanie Carson. It'll give their team a pretty safe draw here. That's back 12. So if they can put one, say, top 8, that would be a really good shot. And essentially, you got control of most of the house. So if you can get your draw weight on this one, you can really start to take control of the end.
Sweepers like this one a little better. Curling a bit earlier. I think with the lighter weight, you'll get that better curl, so they're aware of that. Working hard to get it by the guard. And they are successful. A little
Looks
tighter
like this
than
one's
the
back
other.
to the back one too, but
so enough to pop it out, which means that rock was probably hack weight, and they didn't get by the guard by much. I'll have to watch the line on these, and watch the skips perhaps give a little more ice as the throwers are able to bring the weight down. It was the same in the men's game. You mentioned with Owen's game earlier that they were able to adjust after a few ends. The game I was watching, the teams had and it was on the sheet, had a really hard time adjusting. It was through the whole game, heavy draw weight.
You just have to learn to trust it, because on this type of ice, you can sweep the rocks a long way, and you could actually throw it probably, I'm going to guess, somewhere 8 to 10 feet light and still get to where you need to go. So it's just hard to do, to get it in your head. But once when you find it and get the feel for it, it's not too bad.
So this is a low risk end so far for Team Carson. That draw attempt didn't actually remove the blue Carson stone. So now Madison Dahl will hit and try and stay at the back. It is at the back of the ring, so you have to get it on the nose and not really roll anywhere. And that's well done.
So ideally here you want to try to hit and roll and kind of go under that yellow stone so that you can eliminate the counter in the back. So the side here, it seems that they were getting a little bit of curl on the draws and the hits. So we'll see if we can get a roll on the shot.
Yeah, and this is just that tighter in. So in the first end, same direction, we weren't getting curl, but it was because it was out in the 8 foot, and this is tighter into the 4 foot area. Getting a bit more curl, but we can watch on the screen here the distance between the rock and the center line.
And that's a nice shot.
There we go. Really nice roll.
No, obviously it eliminates that other rock, but the good news for Stephanie Carson's team is the fact that really it's just gives it a free draw. So it's definitely, it doesn't hurt them all that much that yellow one is actually counting the blue, so long as they make a draw here.
So this one tracked a little wide and is at the back house and not buried.
So same thing, they're looking to make a hit and roll like they did with the shot before. Emily Prue is lining up here, and looks like same shot as the shot before. I'd like to get that nice little roll, and if they can get behind that corner would certainly be a plus.
Yeah, I don't even mind just staying or even rolling a little the other way. Just sit 2. You don't have to play that, because I think what happens if you play that roll, you're really forcing Team Carson to play the draw, and if you keep it open, you might get them to hit and get a force out of it. But this is making that roll, I think, is the way to kind of force Team Carson into the attempt for 2. Now, it's always great to sit 2 as well, and someone can miss and you can steal 2. But, yeah, I kind of actually like sticking around and not making that roll.
It does force things away from that corner guard, and definitely the force would be in play for sure.
But now they're going for it. So we'll see if there's the adjustment made here from Isabel Reeves.
The line looks pretty good here.
Get that draw weight. The line does look good.
But it looks like this one actually might be a little light.
If they can outcount something at the back, it'll be a good stone, but it's not quite going to make the rings.
So now it's a really good opportunity for Isabel actually to draw one around, but I think she's actually called for the tap.
Yeah, it looks like it to me. I think the reason would be if you're ever tight on that draw attempt and you tap the blue stone in, it's not great. I think you have to sometimes plan to not make the mistake.
There's definitely pros and cons to that, but the thing about the tap, obviously, is that The harder thing about it, you have to get the right weight and the right line, but this looks actually like a draw.
They're coming straight around. So that had the tap weight.
There you go. Perfect draw right on the tee line.
I haven't seen these teams go for a lot of run backs. One way to try and keep your ability to score is to hit some things too, but that's going to be a hard one to freeze to. It's a really nice shot right on the tee line.
Yeah, I like kind of peeling things out and getting things a little bit more open, because if you ever miss that draw, it certainly would cause the chance to give up a bad end.
They called the run, but this one looks like it's just going to be a straight peel, or maybe that was the call and I just missed it. So a good result, because now Team Ladouceur has to make a really nice draw, or there's going to be the shot stone open for a hit. Oh, sorry, a really nice guard. They're all the same thing, right? Draws and guards.
Well,
there's a millimeter difference between a draw and a guard.
Now
tight card and a top 12.
It's interesting. I see it looks like she called that top 12 would be acceptable on the shot. And to me, I kind of I like the guard, because what happens if you start bringing rocks into the rings, it allows the team that has hammer to actually start counting rocks if they make a hit and roll. So really the ideal shot would be to put a tight guard on there. But I'm not sure. It looked like she did call top 12.
Yeah, we saw that in the second end, too, on lead stones, where you could take advantage of the free guard zone, but instead they brought one in and then let the other team out of the end by bringing the play into the rings. And so it seems like maybe that's a tendency for this team, or maybe they're just nervous and they just want to have 4 stones in the rings, which is never terrible.
Yeah. It's nice having rocks in the rings, but it looks like actually she does have the guard there. So
the weight was great, but the line I'm not so sure about.
Yeah.
Looks accessible.
What do you think, Selena? Do you like a maybe like a back 8 weight type of shot? Just tap it back. It's getting a little later in the end.
I kind of like a little more weight than that, hack or board. Just to make sure that your sweepers can control the line. I think if you play back 8, you might risk it over curling, but if you have that little extra, it's okay as long as you remove the stone. And if you don't have the weight, if the weight's too heavy to get that flop under, you can roll in front of those 2 yellow stones, and then those are working for you. But that's a more defensive way to call it.
It is defensive, but it's a smart call.
Especially since this is your first time, or the first time that your team has thrown down this path.
Well, and the thing is, the most important thing in this shot right now is to keep your shooter.
Yeah.
It's absolutely important that you hold your shooter, so that you want to count the one so that they have to make a play on this shot and force them to make a really hard shot, hitting and rolling in behind the cover. So
now that one looked like it was hanging. Like maybe Stephanie was sliding a bit wide.
It actually looks more like draw weight.
Better weight. Yeah, she called a different weight than I would have. And I don't know if she manages to stay for shot. I think yellow's still shot stone. So the benefit, if you're wide and you throw that lightweight, it will curl. But in this case, it's almost worked against them, because now Team Ladouceur can actually play off that blue stone and have 2 buried. I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can see the inside of the blue stone. You could just peel it out, too, and leave it a difficult draw. I think even if you nosed it or a little low-sided it to keep your 2 rocks in the 4-foot, that would be great.
I missed the call. I'm not sure if they're calling the guard or if they're actually coming just to kind of kiss off.
I think this is just a draw to the 4-foot, and if you kiss off the blue, that's great, which is fine as well.
The big thing here is the line. You just...
So it seems like at least the last rock throwers are adjusting to the weight and bringing it down. They need this one to curl a bit.
Now, if they can get on the inside, it looks like it's going to be a really good shot here.
And Team Ladouceur sits 2. So I think the only thing for Team Carson, it doesn't look like there's a draw on that side. If you want to be real cute, you could chip the blue, but there's the obvious draw to the 4-foot on the other side of the sheet.
It actually looks like if you actually did want to play that slash, it looks like it's jamming all day. And
yeah.
But it's whatever you're comfortable with, and it looks like she wants to play this. Obviously, it is risky if you ever did actually just chip it right across everything. That would be really bad. But so this is a good call.
Yeah, if you popped it through, it's a steal of 4. So I think the risk is too high that something could go wrong. So this is what the teams would have practiced in their pre-game time. Draw to the button. Notice on both of her shots, I didn't notice earlier in the game, Stephanie sliding a little wide. Her body's going a bit wide of the broom, but the rock's not.
It looks like it's pretty close.
Gotta get by the front. And then right, they need full 4-foot.
You got to scrub a little bit here.
Oh.
Just a hair light. Steal a 2 for Ladouceur. 2-0 for Isabelle Ladouceur after 3 ends.
And if you're following along and haven't seen the score on nscurl.com, on sheet D, Daly versus Nodding. I probably should have written down what colors they were throwing. Someone scored 2 in the second end. I think I'm just going to wait and see who's throwing what color right now. Team Nodding is throwing blue rocks, so Team Nodding is up 2-0. Playing the 3rd. And if you missed our intro, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us here on Bell TV 1 at the 2018 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championships here at the Lakeshore Curling Club in Sackville. I am Carson, and I am joined by the wonderful Anthony Purcell, who is doing double duty as a commentator and a coach this week, coaching his son's team in the men's division. And they had their first game this afternoon and the first win.
Yeah, so it was, again, like you said before, definitely the pre-game practice that we had certainly helped. We knew that the ice was fast and straight, and certainly helped us with the game. We adjusted, reasonably quick, and had a pretty good result this afternoon. So real tough game. We'll be playing Team Abraham, a very good so it should be a great one tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, all the games are streamed, sheets C and D. So if you're looking on nscurl.com and you see that your team that you're cheering for is on sheet C or D, they will be streamed. And for tomorrow and Friday, that's Thursday and Friday, those games are at 8, 12, 4, and 8. And then things get switched up on the weekend. 9, 2:30, and 8. And the finals, if need be, are Sunday at 8:30 in the morning. Ooh, it's an early one.
So Megan, she put hers way off to the wing. I think she might be getting those interns started just a little bit, because she definitely is getting more curl than everything. So I think it's actually a release thing that's been going on there for her. But she's a second-year curler, and she's done very well for only being in the sport for 2 years. She took it up when she was 17 or 15 years old. She's 17 now, and they qualified for the 2018 Canada Winter Games playdowns that are going to start in March. And whoever wins that will. Well, there's 4 teams that have qualified for the men's and for the ladies. and the winner will go and represent Nova Scotia in Red Deer in February of 2019. So to do that with 2 years' experience is something to be pretty proud of. So good on you, Megan.
Yeah, it's pretty. I think there's three. Both of these teams are Canada Games eligible.
They both qualified.
Yeah, and Callie Moore's team as well. I think are those the only three in the field?
And actually Notting, the team
And
that's
Notting.
on sheet that's playing Calissa Daly. They're eligible to. Well, they qualified for that. So
I caught you. You forgot one name for
I
like
know
2
I'm
seconds.
bad.
Way better than me. And Michaela Harnish there just got hers started a bit. The hit on the stone on the wings got it going and actually went out before it made contact. So now the furthest over corner guard I've seen played actually covering a stone was just played. And
That's actually hard to do.
A really good shot there from Megan. So whatever she's doing with those stones, it's working for her. We just had to get her to throw the draws. And
Yes.
just starting those hits a little bit. So this is always tough. You're up 2 if you're Team Ladouceur, and you could peel. You feel kind of silly peeling that stone. So they're just going to guard their own. They are shot. Peel is definitely a safe call. This is a much more aggressive.
I like the peel in this one,
Oh.
just because it's early enough in the end, and
I'd agree, and especially if the rock's going to come deep. And maybe the tap was the call here. The only thing I have is it really does set up just opportunities for the other team. They don't even have to make the double right now. They can just stick around, get some rocks in play, take advantage of the fact that the other team is willing to let you, keep rocks in the rings.
And all it takes really is hit and roll out from the Ladouceur. They're sitting 2 right now, but actually if Carson's team can actually hit and stick, that's all you need to do. And as soon as you get one rollout from the Team Isabelle Ladouceur, then all of a sudden you can have an opportunity to sit 2. So
So that's a good shot. Didn't have to remove both yellows. The only thing here is it does leave a double. I would have liked to keep that a little closer to the center line.
Yep.
It's a flat double, and this is a straight. So you see where the broom is, right in the center of the rock.
Oh, yeah.
Kate Callahan throwing.
That's a great shot right there. That takes away the corner guard. The force is essentially on right now.
So we're saying all it took was maybe one rollout to maybe give up 3, and here we are with the force. The force is on.
Yep.
It's tough when the corner guard has to be way over to the wings like that because it really takes away your ability to come around. You run out of rings, you can't go far back because you're out the back.
So not a bad call here. You freeze one up there to the one that's in the wing if you can make it good. Now this one here looks like it's heavy. So
I always have a tendency when you're playing a freeze or saying that the acceptable call is a tap back is to call a little less ice. I find players tend to throw a little heavy when they know they have backing. So I always tighten up the ice by a few inches. I think that would help in cases like this.
And this is a pretty good call, I think. Isabel's up 2-0 on Team Carson. Her putting one in. But, spread the rocks out a little bit and sit 3. It's probably a pretty good call. If you put up a center guard or even a corner guard, guarding the one you have really works to the advantage of Carson because at this point right now she really doesn't have anywhere to kind of create offense. So
You want to make sure it's deep enough that there isn't a double, which it is, close to the tee line. The execution's just a little stronger on the part of Team Ladouceur today.
Yeah, they're playing pretty well.
And a lot of that, I think, is draw weight. And just where to put the broom on those hits. I think they figured that out a little earlier. So here we got Isabel Reeves. I don't think they'd mind a little roll to the wings. I think this is the best way to get
if she could ever hit
there.
Stick that. Did she roll a little too far?
Yeah, we'd loved it to curl up a hair more.
If she would ever got that to be shot rock, that would really set up a nice deuce, but unfortunately just a little too far off.
The hit and roll to the exact perfect side 12 spot is a really tough shot. That was so close.
Not that easy to do for sure.
And once again, this is Emily Prue. Third for Team Ladouceur.
Now this one actually looks like it's going to be a little bit light, and that's actually not the way you want to miss this shot, because really what's going to happen now, I would assume that Stephanie will probably just draw around that rock, knowing that the force is on.
I think someone just...
was it a burnt rock or something? Or
oh, it may have been.
I'm not sure what the discussion is there, but...
You know, sometimes you think you hit the rock, but you're not sure, so you tell. And I mean, it's hard. It's supposed to come off if it was burned, but if it really didn't do anything, I mean, arguably for Team Carson, if that was a burnt stone and you have the choice to take it away, maybe you don't, because it's a guard for you. If it was after the hog, the non-offending skip would put it where they think it would go. It's interesting here. They called the hit instead of a draw.
There she goes, and she makes a perfect hit and roll. What do we know? But
oh my!
I know just coaching my own son's team and juniors and whatnot. The tendency a lot of the time sometimes they tend to think hit. Whereas in a situation like that, this end, you know that essentially someone's going to score points this end. So
may as well be me. And
it might as well be me. Best. I've always said it's a lot easier to make a draw than it is a perfect hit and roll. And where that rock was really, it was I think almost to the 12-foot almost. You know, you have quite a bit of ring to draw to. So to create a deuce, probably easier to do, you know, the open draw than it is the perfect hit and roll, but hey, she made a pretty decent shot. So
yeah, it is drawing the play into that 4-foot area. And this one's starting to go. Might have lost that. Kind of looked like the rock was grabbing a little bit to me. A lot of movement. So again, here's that dilemma. What do you do? I think, you know, like you said, Anthony, someone's going to score, and should be me, but the conservative call is definitely the hit. And it's easy to do. The other team's sitting 2. The guard is theirs.
And if you know, if you do score one, you want to be a little bit conservative and not risk giving up a bigger end. It's not wrong. It's certainly it's important to definitely score than it is to give up a steal. So even if you end up taking one, it's certainly not the end of the world. There's 6 ends left to go. So you know, hitting is the end of the world. But hey, you might even get that roll. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would have given Stephanie a really good shot at making a really nice draw here. She did it in the last end. And this is that spot where we've had some go straight. She does slide a bit wide. Sweepers haven't laid a brush down. And there we get the roll out there. So I don't think it'll take long for Isabel to decide that she wants to come around that card.
And Isabel's like, you know, she's been around for a while. She's got some good strategy she's doing. If she sees an opportunity like this, she'll know for sure to go around that center guard.
So this, which turn, there's a little discussion there. It's usually dictated by which one you get better curl. And I think we've seen enough of those stones on the out turn side, not quite curl up enough, so the in turn's the call.
And it seems like I think there's a little bit more curl on this side, so that might be the reason why she's taking this turn.
Yeah.
Now the sweepers are on it.
This is where her last stone, her hit really moved, and that might be the concern, but this one looks like it's light all day.
I think they had the broom in the right spot. It's just if they had the right weight, I think they could have buried that pretty good.
So Stephanie here, there's no good chance for two. I don't think you can get around that guard and do anything with that yellow stone to bring the other into play, so it's just a draw for one. Stephanie Carson's 17 years of age. She's been curling for 10 years, and she's from Dartmouth. Grade 12 student at Prince Andrew High School. And she's got all of the curlers out here have accomplishments, a long, long, long list.
It's funny, I can remember a lot of these young ladies, even going back 10 years when they first started, and my son, again, when he started, and it's great just to see how much they've all developed into great curlers. This is the future of our sport, and it's just great to see that these guys are still playing and carrying the great tradition of bringing good curling to Scotia, so keeping it going. So,
and that one will come up light.
I wonder, Celine, if the ice might be slowing down just a hair. You wouldn't think it would, but
I should put a stopwatch on it, but I need my phone charger for that.
For the 4 o'clock draw, the ice actually held up very nice.
Oh, definitely.
It was, you didn't see, being that light. So I'm not sure if it's just an over-adjustment or what's going on, but it's a steal of one for Isabel Ladouceur, and gaining a little bit of control in the end. But if Stephanie Carson can come up with a crooked number or 2 or 3, where she's right back in it. But it's still early.
Just starting the 5th end, which after this will be halfway through the game, and Carson maintains hammer. After this end, it'll be a 5-end game. Both teams will start with whatever they had at the break. So I think Team Carson will go pretty hard. You'd like to put a couple points on the board and not have a 3-point deficit. So I don't think they'll be looking for the blank right off the bat here. And just as an update here to our other game, which is Daly versus Notting. Notting stole 2 in 3 and is now up 4-0. And they're finishing the 4th end now. We'd like to thank our title sponsor, AMJ Campbell, for sponsoring the Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championships, and of course our friends at Bet1 for the awesome broadcasting all week. Like I mentioned earlier, games tomorrow and Friday at 8, 12, 4, and 8. Every 4 hours there's a curling game, and alternating the men's and women's draws. So we'll start off with a full house of men's games tomorrow at 8 a.m. And if you're following along, all the games live scorings on nscurl.com. There's a link. So if you lose this link that you're watching on, there's a link to watch, and sheets C and D are broadcast all week.
So this is a really good call by Isabel here. They made a real nice draw on them, and she's going to run her rock into the blue, and if she doesn't make it perfectly, it should just open everything up. But unfortunately, it looks like a bit of a miss or something picked, because that's quite off target. So I don't know. That must have been a pick.
Yeah, sweepers don't seem too concerned. Normally after a pick you see
someone looking under the rock or
the
something.
ice and extra precaution. Maybe she just turned that one over. So we've got Megan Bellon. I think all the players on Team Carson are 17 years of age, Megan included. And like you said, Anthony, curling for a couple years. She lives in Halifax, is in grade 12. She goes to Sacred Heart.
So that's not a bad miss. She didn't get it in the rings, but essentially what she has done, Megan has put up a corner guard, something that's useful. The worst shot really in there is if you would have threw that through the rings, then you have really nothing to work with. So the fact that that's a corner guard, it will come in handy. But again, another good call by Isabel, getting them to run this rock back. And if they don't make the perfect run back, that blue rock will be exposed.
Yeah, certainly. It's a peel or a run back, and either one's great. Up 3, you don't need to mess around in the rings, just to hit the opponent's stones. So here's where you see that blue corner guard getting used. It's time for Kate Callahan to try to come around.
So they've seen this path. This is the second time in a row now that they're playing the shot. So Madison will probably have a good idea of what to throw here, and I anticipate that she'll make this.
Just reading the fun facts about the team. While Kate's trying to make this all-important draw, she's just a small-town girl living in a lonely world. And she's an American Eagle gene expert. And interestingly, she plans to work at a gas station or be a pharmacist, which are two very different things.
I think, was that Kate you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Kate's dad is a pharmacist, Mike Callahan. So
he is. And I don't see him here, but I bet he's listening. Hi, Mike. Or watching. You're only listening to us. You're watching the game.
This is fun family facts instead of fun individual facts. So, hi, Mike.
Mike and I, we play Travelers level together, each other, and we usually have fun at the spiels we're at.
Oh, Mike's a character, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I played with Mike, actually. I think it was, geez, I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe 4 years ago. And he was always good for a laugh. So we have Madison Dahl coming out. She's asked to split the rings. So try to throw similar weight to what she just threw. And we'll see where this is up. This could actually be back ring, and that's probably even back ring would be great.
Yeah, I think the deeper the better for that one. I think Isabella Ladouceur is going to call the hit and roll no matter what, so deeper in the rings is better. And that's something that the teams will learn as they go, is where, you know, it's great that it's in the rings, but there's an even better spot in the rings to put it. Maybe it's deep, maybe it's high, maybe it's on one side or the other, and they'll learn that as they go.
If that would have been back, is no roll to the behind the corner guard, and that's That's just small technical details that that you gain through experience. So it looks like she'll have a free draw to the same spot again.
That guard's nicely guarding the stone in the top 12. I'd also be tempted, it's dead buried, tempted to come around to the back. I know that sets you up for Team Ladouceur freezing, but might be a good chance to get a few points here instead of just 2. Maybe I'm greedy.
Well, it is a high guard. You know, the only down thing about that shot, obviously, is that that rock is top 12, so you don't have a lot of room to draw to, but it is a high guard, so certainly you could definitely create a 3-ender out of this situation.
Yeah, I think you could come around that. And there's another good shot. Again, I think we'll see the hit and roll attempt. They rolled out. What are we on now? It's Emily. So she'll go for the roll. Of course, the main objective is to hit the stone. Second objective is the roll. These ones are just floating out there. I didn't see this as much in the earlier game.
It might be a release thing. I give it. I'm sure it's straighter ice, but I think it's more a release thing than, because if you look at where the broom is placed, I mean it's right in the middle of the rock. So if ones are going wide, I'm sure it has to be the release.
And it was for
Isabel.
For Emily
or
versus
Emily
Isabel. Isabel throwing here, and Stephanie has the broom on the side of the rock versus Isabel has the broom on the center of the rock for Emily. So a little bit of release. Or we'll see what this one does. They did get a bit of a roll, Team Ladouceur, just didn't go quite enough. And I think Team Carson will just try and roll this one away a little bit. Nicely done.
So we're getting into Skips Rocks. There's definitely a good opportunity for a deuce here. Right now would be a really good time for Isabel to get out of this by making that roll. It's a lot, not an easy shot, but certainly there.
Even if you just roll a few feet toward the center line and maybe Stephanie doesn't roll away, and then you have your second chance to roll under.
Yeah.
Just some sort of a roll to the center would be good here. So on her first of 2, Isabel going for the hit. And this one certainly looks like it's wide out there as well.
So there you go.
Michaela trying to roll it in, but it hits the outside of the rock.
It actually rolled to a spot where you probably have to play it, because if you draw to the one behind the corner guard on top of the blue one, I don't think you're going to outcount the yellow rock. So this is a good call. This is definitely a good call. She's called to come around that one around the wings. It's actually quite something that more of a veteran type call. So I'm pretty impressed by this, to call this.
I think sometimes the score helps dictate what you do. So down 2, you play the more conservative shot, like in the previous end. Down 3, well, maybe we take a little more risk, or go for the more interesting shot. Don't need to make the hit and risk rolling out.
I know myself, when I see these junior calls making these type of calls, I like it a lot, because it shows that they're understanding the situation, and they're developing in, skip type calls for like a more mature call. So
Absolutely.
Good on her for making that call. Now she just has to execute.
It's a nice shot there. Second shot. So I don't think Isabel's going to ignore it. Up 3. I think you can stand giving up 2, but You don't want to take a risk at giving up 3. So do you think we'll see the up weight high side on this one?
I think so.
And I say high side, but putting the broom, of course, in the center of the rock, because that's where it should go for these hits in the straight spot.
If you were, you're like a Kevin Cooey or someone that could throw a lot of weight, you could actually try to make this hit and roll because it will definitely, it's in a spot where if you throw it hard enough, it will go. But definitely the safe call here is just to either nose it or maybe hit it side.
Yeah, you can get away with chipping off the back yellow, but of course you want to make sure the blue leaves the ring. So
absolutely,
hitting the yellow as thin as possible would be great. And peeling it out, great too. I think they're just talking about where to put the broom. And you throw that a little bit of extra weight, and sometimes players, with all that excitement, they'll push it out a little bit thinking they have to push, but just throw the weight, know that the broom's in the right place. Like you said earlier, Anthony, just trust it. Sweepers haven't touched this one. It looked okay out of her hand.
Perfect shot.
Great little pick. Got her right out of there. So it'll be the draw for 2 from Stephanie Carson.
I'm surprised that they're actually drawing to the wing like that because it kind of shrinks down the scoring, I guess, the targeted area. But I guess she just threw it and she feels more comfortable with it.
That's always the question. Do you throw the same shot twice or throw to the easier draw spot with more room for error? When you're the one that has to throw it, I guess it's whatever you're comfortable with, right?
If you make it, it's not the wrong call.
We could have a debate on that.
But looks at this, she made the right call.
Yeah, sweepers don't mind it at all. There she goes.
Here we go. It looks like a crooked number. So 3-2 after the 5th end. Should be a great finish. Close game.
And we're going to go for a 5-minute break. So we'll catch you back here at the 2018 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championships in a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, to the 2018 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championship. That is a mouthful here on Bell Alliance TV1. I am Selena Thompson and joined, of course, by Anthony Purcell, and it's been a pleasure so far and a fun game between Stephanie Carson and Isabelle Ladouceur in draw one of the women's event here, deciding who will move on to the Junior National Championships in late January. And so Ladouceur leading 3-2 and with hammer, believe it or not, for the first time this game.
It's good to see one in the free guard zone.
It's really nice.
Now, in all seriousness, it's this should be good. We got I guess Michaela coming up here. She's going to put one right on the, hopefully put one on top of the forefoot. I'm hoping for both teams. I just want good shots.
We're as unbiased as they come. I was with Chris Muller, whose son was playing on the team that we were against, and I've commentated by choice, I suppose, on many games that I have had family members in, and it's kind of nice to have no skin in the game today. Not nervous. Cheering for good curling, as cheesy as that is. It's really nice to see the center guard, and little miss there from Michaela. She threw that one through.
I think the break, maybe they just kind of got a little, never thought about the weight again. They just got to get readjusted here.
So with that nice center guard, now there's a lot of options here. You could throw a second tight guard. You could do a high guard, which is hard to get much higher than that one, but they might be doing it. Or you could come in the rings. But a second guard does not hurt if you're blue.
No, absolutely not. So, like, we're in the sixth end. It's still lots of game left, but it doesn't hurt to have two center guards. You know, it does give the opportunity for Team Carson to generate a little bit of offense and force Isabelle Ladouceur's team to draw into the rings and force some play for offense. So it's certainly not a lost shot.
So we'll see if Michaela can do the adjustment. Sweepers are on this, so I think she might have adjusted a little too much. They're pounding it pretty hard all the way. And that one, now they don't want it over the hog line.
Yeah,
once you know it's not going to be a good stone, you kind of want it to stop.
And that's good sweeping, actually. That's what you need to do. If there was really no benefit to get that over the hog line, you're just given three guards that only help, really, Stephanie Carson's team. So it was actually good sweeping when you're not sweeping. So.
And it's easier to not sweep, too. But now, and the unfortunate thing about those two guards is they're not perfectly overlapped, but they are, you know, when appeal comes, they'll probably both get moving. But for now, make the come around. You're down. You don't have hammer. You want the other team to work for their points here.
And that's a beautiful draw right there. Essentially, there's the offense that you want. Not sure how open it is. Again, we're kind of off to the side a bit, so we don't see exactly how, well, I guess you can see it on the screen there. So it is about half open.
We'll have to ask the fans that we see in the window there. It looks about half open. Right. So probably not a ton of weight played on this. We talk about pro side misses, or the way to miss is to be tight, because you leave yourself a corner guard if you're yellow. And if your sweepers can do it for you, you get by and make the shot. So that's, I'd say, just as good than the call. Isabelle willing that stone out, but it didn't quite go.
So, yeah, there's Stephanie's. She's going up there to set up the center guard. Again, another good call. So, essentially, the rest of the end, the goal would be for that one that's on the button. But guards aren't as easy to make as people think. Sometimes they tend to hold a little straight, and some tend to hook sometimes. It's just having the perfect weight and having the broom in the right spot.
And the release sensitive too. If you ever just get it started or you pop it a little straight and out, it just won't do what you expect. So it becomes hard to put the broom down. So that guard did its job enough that it's not worth it to go after the shot. So the peel's the call here. And I think they're probably playing the out turn at this. Trying to get the double peel, but this is the spot where things are curling closer to the center line, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one over curls and doesn't make the double peel. If it over curls, maybe you get the run back though. There's some heat on this one.
I wonder if she knows her player actually will tend to pop maybe that O-turn, and maybe that's a lot of ice on that shot.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if she was peeling or was she actually trying to play a run back there.
Well, I thought the peel, and then of course with the overcurl you'd get the run back. It overcurled so much that it didn't do anything. It just left the shooter out there, and the raised rock went straight through. And I noticed with Emily Prue's, that was Kate Callahan throwing. Emily tends to throw them a little wide or straight, and I've seen the tight ice, but I didn't think Kate's were doing that. I actually kind of think it may just be more because that side of the sheet is running straight, but it isn't tighter that center line. So another guard here I think would be a really good call. You can put one tight to the rings, and this is a case where you could be top 12. What you don't want to do is split the current guard, and sweepers are working hard to not. There it is.
That's probably worst case scenario.
There's an interesting little shot. I tend to like these calls. You can play the double peel and even squirt your shooter into the rings if you hit it real thin. And of course, if you hit this stone in behind Isabel's broom thicker and just make the double peel, that's great too. Yeah, Emily Prue, she throws these pretty straight. See the rotation there? That's a lot of rotation for a big weight hit.
She's a really good player, and again, I've said this a couple times. I know all these players because, again, I've been through the junior system, and Emily is, again, she's one of these players that, you know, you give her a year or two, she's going to be right there with the top players in the province. A lot of these players are like that. They're close. They're just on the brink. To kind of break through, but anyway, yeah, she throws a really good rock.
So now it's Isabel Reeves just putting that guard back up. The peel is always a good call when you're up in points with hammer. Doesn't matter that you can see that stone on the button. The guard is the more dangerous rock. This one looks like it's going to start to overcurl here, or already has started to. Oh.
Well, the line looks pretty good.
Line looks way better from there. That's a great shot. You take it back.
I think you got to pay a little more attention, I think, on the monitor than the curling ice sheet here. It's just we're on the side of the sheet and not quite right behind the rock. So, but no, that's a great shot.
I could pay attention to the line call too. Would help. So we have a timeout here. So we'll have the coaches go out. We already introduced them earlier. Brian Rayfuse for Team Ladouceur and Shane Carson for Team Carson.
So what do you think, Selena, on this shot here? Obviously, if Isabel's team is calling timeout, they obviously want to open everything up.
Yeah, the idea here, it's a 6th end. You'd love to score in even ends. You'd love to score 2, and if not, you probably want to try and blank. I think Brian's going to maybe try and get them to play a double peel and give them a chance to get at the button with either a hit or a draw. Because if you just peel one stone, you aren't left with much. That would be, that's what I think he you'll say to them here?
Personally, I think, you got to make a play on the one in the center first, because that's the one that's covering the rock.
Yeah.
And ideally, I think you got to make the double peel, getting the two blues out of the way, so at least you have access to the and I've always taught this to my team, is the fact that it's always better to take one than give a steal of one. So, if you're forced to take your one, take it. But and that's what Brian has done here. So he has told them to remove that center guard, and if you clip the blue one along the way, that's a bonus.
And you'll see them bounce. These are lively stones, and with the way Emily throws with a lot of rotation, I think it's probably the reason the timeout was called, is this is a good player to actually throw this shot. So we should see, if she can hit this high side, should see some action on a couple stones. And this will be peel weight. Really
a lot of rotation.
Yeah, she gets that motion back and then puts the rotation on, and that's how you get that extra spin. Just goes over the top. With where the broom was, I'm kind of surprised that curled up. I wonder if she just throws those a little narrow. Because judging where the guard are just outside the 4 foot, if you throw a lot of rotation on a peel, I wouldn't have expected that stone to curl as much as it appeared to.
Yeah, she did get a lot of movement there, so I think you're right.
And it could just be that release where she turns it back before actually putting the rotation on, and maybe that gives it a little extra curl. So with spin, but she may just be starting it a bit. Be interesting to watch as a coach and as an opposing player. You try and figure out what your opponents are doing and make them throw the shots that they are less likely to make. Stephanie looks like she's in pain on that throw. Looks like she was saying, ow. So the guard just being thrown back up. Make sure
looks
this
like it's
one's
going to be a high
over.
guard. Probably worried that it's going to.
Yep.
So I think at this point you got to make a play. Try to maybe get through the hole.
Yeah, you can play it tight to that top one, and if you peel, that's fine. I mean, you're hitting something either way. May as well go for the one in there. I think we're down to skip stone.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I say that. I mean,
you're not scoring if that blue stays there and there's another guard. And I think maybe that that timeout is now in their head where they're thinking peel is the option, but you have a chance to get a stone late in the end. It doesn't become peel anymore.
You're probably not going to get a better chance than what you have right now. And if you have a chance actually to get the deuce, it would be now. So you could make a play right into the one that's into the top button. It's a good rock, so I think it's just a great opportunity to actually try to get that rock off the button. But they've elected to. I don't know if they're looking to run it back, and
I know she can only see, less than all the rock, probably only a half. So the peel's a call, and they're playing the other turn. Be a right-hander's out turn, but for Isabel, it's an in turn. So unfortunately, with that nutting, I think that actually made the hole a little smaller, so it's going to be easier for Stephanie to make a guard now.
So what's going to happen if she puts up a perfect guard? Really, what's going to be left for Isabel is essentially the run back, the rock that's on the right-hand side, and it won't be an easy one because it's a high guard, so the level of difficulty will be high. But we'll see how this one ends up.
And you make this guard knowing that your opponent, like if you're Stephanie Carson here, you know your opponent is going to have a run back, but it's not right to put a second one in necessarily either, because then you give the other team a shot to score. So you just leave them the hardest shot possible, which is what the call is here.
I certainly agree with this call. 100%. You got one right on the button. Force the other team to make a tough shot. And
they seem
you essentially done your
committed to that line, and we're getting 2 over curls here, and I think they're just that's a bit of a struggle. I think.
Well, I think she's all right.
No, yeah. And there may be a real tough out-turn draw, so the run back I think is the call. I mean, Isabel just threw a similar shot in a similar spot, so give her an okay chance at putting the broom down and knowing how to. She's pretty calm. A lot of people don't like looking at run backs, and she just set the broom down. Okay, that's how I throw it.
It takes quite a bit to get Izzy rattled. A tough shot. She makes it. It's good on her. If it does end up being a steal, it was really a perfectly played end by Team Carson.
Like a little bit of a float there on release. One to curl. They might get lucky with a ricochet off the.
No, I think that's going over the top.
All right, so that'll be a steal of 1 and a tie game after 6. Team Carson steals 1 to take it 3-3. Ladouceur will have a hammer in 7 here at the 2018 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championships at the Lakeshore Curling Club. And we're keeping you updated daily versus nodding. I think last time I updated you was after the 3rd end, and it was 4-0 for Team Nodding. Well, Team Daly came back with a 2 in the 4th and a steal of 1 in the 5th to bring it to 4-3. Nodding up 4-3 has hammer in 6.
Good to see 2 close games tonight, and giving the fans a little something to watch.
And so here we go in 7. Once again, it'll be Megan Bellon starting us off. That's interesting. 7th end, if you don't have the hammer, your Team Carson probably play the guard. If you put that one in, I think Team Ladouceur would try and blank, so that's the reason for a guard, and we're getting excited here because
yeah, actually, with 4 ends left, I think that's definitely the right call. If you're Team Carson, I think you want to get that hammer back as soon as possible.
Force. You need to force. Give
a force or even get a steal, but ideally, you don't want to give up a crooked number, but if you're Team Carson, you get that hammer back. So Michaela, she actually resides in Liverpool, and that's quite a commitment on her end. Her teammates are basically right around the city area, and it's quite a commitment for her to go back and forth from Liverpool and practice with this team. And I do believe that they do play a night or 2 in Bridgewater, so it is kind of an in-between site for those guys. But again, that's an example to be a competitive team and the level of commitment that it takes. And like I said earlier, the level of success is not by accident; it's what you put into it. So. A lot of hard work and a little bit of travel time.
I'm just looking at all their ages. Michaela's 17, so maybe isn't relying on the ma and or pa shuttle service as much. Maybe can get herself. I know that's always a struggle with the younger junior curlers, as you know.
Yes.
5. I mean, you're the coach now, so you're everywhere anyway.
Well, I am, but my son Owen just got his license in October, so I have noticed a difference.
It must be fun to have some nights off.
Oh, it helps.
So we saw, this is interesting, the center guard put up by Team Carson, and then the come around went a little deep and a little exposed. Great opportunity to force, but they called a hit there, and then didn't actually remove the stone. Shooter rolls away, so advantage Team Ladouceur to points here after coming back to a tie game.
Did she call the guard here, or did she?
I
missed
think
the call.
The draw here. It was.
Looks like a lot of ice. Or is she coming around the center guard?
Around the center guard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, doesn't look like ice for the center guard.
No.
But it was the interesting one was Stephanie's call of the hit weight. Tie game, you want to force, you don't necessarily need to hit things.
Just nice looking draw. Well, maybe just a tear here heavy, but.
Yeah, that's really too bad. I'd love to see Stephanie just play into this. It's a nice pocket to force.
Well, there you go. Well,
we just saw that nice, finish. Not a ton of ice, but the finish is really good on these stones. If you can get by the guard by a little bit, you'll get that stone. So there we go. This is that nice call. Just put one in front of the tee line. You don't have to freeze to that stone. Just put it in front of the tee line. Maybe bite the top button. Doesn't even really have to be shot here to be a good one. So this is Madison Dahl once again. It's her first stone in the seventh end. We're in the seventh.
I really don't think the rocks are gliding as much as they were earlier in the game. To me, it looks like the table is definitely breaking down a little bit. They seem to get a little fooled on that. So that's something that they probably want to keep an eye on, because they didn't seem like they really went after the rock on the sweeping for the weight. So
here's an interesting position too to be in. Hammer, you'd love to score. There's some rocks in play, score or blank. But Isabel's sitting two, and they're at the back house. Blue's got some really good stones at the front of the house, even though that one that was just thrown isn't shot or even second. It's in a great position. I would be so tempted to peel that guard right now. I think the peel is my default call, Anthony. But
well, if you ever locked one top four, you got pretty good control.
I know.
The only thing is, if you do come deep, you certainly open it up for Team Carson.
And that's right where that one will go. It's a big old mess of rocks at the back of the house.
See, now, you don't have hammer. I'm sure, there you go. I'm sure Shane's going to tell them probably to come around that.
Maybe play the other.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks really juicy when you this side we got all this backing, but you're not worried about the backing. You just get shot stone. It's like a draw around that guard, and I'm sure that's what Shane's going to say. And Brian, for Team Ladouceur may recommend a peel at this point, I suspect.
Well, it's a lot harder to make a perfect tap because you have the perfect line and the perfect weight, and then you got to have the perfect line call. Whereas if you have the draw, you just got to basically throw the right weight, and you have a little bit more. Like the adjustment, you don't have to be perfect for the draw. Whereas the tap, everything's got to be perfect. So definitely like the freeze on this one.
I think they like the tap.
I think they're going to have a hard time talking Shane into that one, but
it was just nice from Team Ladouceur, like with back house weight come around. They barely use the sweepers on those two stones.
The finish is there for sure, like on that O-turn.
Unfortunately, they're not standing under the mics so that we can hear them, but we'll just pretend that Shane's telling them the out turn is a smart call because we've seen it and it curls and it's easier than the tap. And fist pump and go. Let's see what they decided on.
Looks like we have the draw.
It's like we can read his mind. No, I think it's just
To me, this is the right call for sure.
yeah, experienced call.
If they could ever throw the excuse me, if they could ever throw the right weight, it'll definitely work.
Yeah, even if this one's light, like top 8 foot. It just doesn't look, they're not getting the curl that Team Ladouceur is in this one. I think it's just heavy. It's not sweeper's weight.
Yeah. Now, if Ladouceur comes in and they do the same shot and lock one like top 4, Team Carson it's not going to be looking very good.
Yeah, they may have to go over to that tap. And if that, it's so different because if that shot had been made, Ladouceur has to peel, and now they've been given an out to sit 4. And that's how quickly things can change. Advantage in an end. And of course, if this one's deep, pocket for the other team.
Well, that's right. And then actually, the actual tap might even be the better option. We'll see.
This one's a little tighter to the guard, but they're not pounding it for weight, so it looks pretty good.
I think the angle's set up now that you may be, well, no, you can probably still draw down there, but it's.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate it's your own guard, but you can't get in there. The tap, I guess the angle might not be there. It's hard to see.
If you could ever angle this straight back. Oh.
Had to hit that a little thicker to get that to run back. They weren't trying to run it into the pile, but at least things are open. It's so funny. The team with hammer is now playing a center guard, which is very counterintuitive. But it doesn't seem like the.
If anything, you don't want to have this guard actually over curl.
No.
If they over curl this guard, then essentially what will happen on the next one, Carson's team can actually freeze one and lock it so that it's just, there's no way it's coming out. So
freeze or freeze tap even, depending on where this ends up. And this it's almost if you if it ends up being in the rings, it's not so bad. You know that your opponents are going to be blasting, and you'll probably be left with a shot for a couple.
I think if you're sitting 5 at this point, it's not real bad.
That's what I was getting at. You said it much more succinctly. So this is one that. So now there's a hit and roll.
Yeah.
And you can lose, I think, 2 of the yellows. I think one of them will jam in the back blue there. But we'll see some weight here coming from Isabel Reeves. I think the way to do this is to call the t- Everyone's been, and especially Isabel on her last was even wide and it held. I think she throws them pretty straight.
I think if you hit it actually on the low side, it'll drag. That back one will actually drag under. So I think you can get rid of the top one in the bottom one if you hit it on the underside, but you got to hit it with weight.
Got 2 out of there.
Yep.
Actually over curled a little bit. I'm surprised that one over curled. But that was a little bit of a get out of jail.
It's better than what it was.
Ish card. I won't call it get out of jail free because they're still going to be facing a couple. But even if you can cut Team Ladouceur down to 2, that'll be a win at this point for Team Carson, I think. So this is, I think, kind of a half guard, half draw, calling it maybe in the rings, but tight's okay. The tough thing is those 2 yellow stones are still at the back of the rings, so you can never get one in there in a good position, it's great. But they got to worry about those guards right now.
Those guards are in really good spots, so they have to be dealt with.
Yeah. Could run it right into the mess, though, right into the yellows and lose another couple. I'm sure that's an option. You just don't want to jam it up. Although even if the jam's made, I think the back blue is out counting the yellow. They've gone with the other turn, the in turn.
I wonder if it's better to maybe play the double peel, open everything up, and
yeah, it's tempting, isn't it?
And then hope that they don't make a perfect guard or something and have like a double on your lap.
I mean, they play a guard. You have a nice little freeze in there. So this is the first of skip stones for Stephanie Carson. Makes the peel. So they did switch that turn to make sure they didn't jam. But it does leave the same shot here for Isabelle Ladouceur.
You know, she makes a perfect guard. It might be an opportunity to draw around the yellow rock and just try to get it on the forefoot for damage control and just say, hey, you can have your 1 point, or at least try to make it as you possibly can for them to score more than one.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And if you, even if you you don't get it perfect and it's not shot, maybe it's hard to get 2 instead of 3.
Exactly. Just choke things off so it at least makes it tougher for them to score their deuce.
So sweepers
They're not
leaving this one alone. I guess it's over curl. We'll see when it gets a little closer to the rings there. It looks good to me.
It's okay.
Same thing happened in the last end. There's so there's this draw, and you could always tap if you don't like the draw. There's a tap on the blue or raise, but the angle is always a little more difficult. Those raises, you have to hit it perfectly with the right weight. So
the key here would be, even if you could half tuck the one that you have and your at least second shot, it certainly would make the deuce opportunity a lot more difficult for Isabelle Ladouceur's team. Doesn't really have to be an absolutely perfect shot, but if you can half tuck it and count the second stone, it's going to be hard for Isabelle to score 2.
So a draw attempt here from Stephanie Carson to cut down her opponents. They'll have 1 yellow stone remaining after this comes to rest. They're working hard to get this around the front guard.
It looks light.
They got it by. I didn't think that was by, but like you said, a little light. So it chokes off that draw path. But there is a draw on the other side. And that'll be Isabelle's in turn. Everyone else is out turn. And just as we're waiting for her to throw, we did have a score of 3 from Team Nodding to go up. No, I can't do the math. 7-3. Thank you. Against Daly. And sitting a pile currently, but they're at the back of the rings. Go figure. So this is a wide draw. No one has played a draw out this wide, but all they need is full 8 foot.
My guess it's going to be a little quicker out there where the pebble isn't broken down, but
they're working it hard now. They can go. There's no chance that it's heavy if they're sweeping like this. It's pretty close.
That's definitely carrying more than some of the other rocks, but just she got out there and just didn't seem to want to come back for her, so I think it's only 2.
so too, Anthony. So we'll call it. It'll be 2 points for Team Ladouceur, and they'll take a 5-3 lead after 7. And it'll be Team Carson with hammer in 8. I'm just waiting for that little hammer to move. there it goes. Thanks, Sean. We have a awesome crew here. Chuck and Sean on the controls, and we're turning them into curling fans. They've got our little hammer icons, and they're learning with us. And I think that it's like unknown curling history where the hammer comes from. I've heard.
I certainly don't know.
I know. I never really talked to anyone about this, but I looked it up on good old Wikipedia once, and I think if I'm remembering right, there's a bunch of different. We'll call it like speculations as to where the hammer comes from. So if someone knows, someone watching knows if you know for a fact why it's the hammer, whether it's because you throw the hammer down because you have advantage, or if they tossed a hammer to see who it faced, I have no idea.
Or spun it.
It's funny. It's something like all curlers accept. Oh, it's called the hammer, but no one knows why. The old term that I liked, it was Ken Watson's On Curling. It's a very interesting book to read. Is the old chap and lie is the hit and roll, which is my favorite term for the hit and roll. And if Andrew Comlody is watching, I'm sure he's probably not actually, but if he is, thank you for that wisdom.
So obviously that's a good call. First one comes in the rings. Isabel, that was a great call. No need to put up any guards. Hers coming into to the rings is a smart call. And then, of course, Team Carson putting up their corner guard is a good call as well. So they know that they have to create some offense here, and putting up that corner guard is the way to do it. So. So Michaela's been asked to come and draw, I think, top 12. Ideally, you want this in the rings.
For Team Ladouceur, up to playing 8, you don't really want Carson to score in 8. I think you'd be okay with a blank. You're up, and then you can force in 9, have hammer in 10. It's kind of the ideal situation. So rocks in the rings is the reason.
Now, personally, myself, I like on this shot here, I'd like to go around the corner guard. Reason being is if you play a hit here and you roll, then essentially Isabel on her next one, she can peel that corner guard, and then essentially your end's gone. So if you go around the corner, you don't have to hit right now. Now, she did stick in the rings, which was very important, but if you do hit and roll out, it'll allow the other team to peel that corner guard on you, and then essentially it'll be very tough to score you deuce. But good on her for making that hit and stick.
When you'd like to score and you'd like to ends, like you said earlier, you don't always accomplish that by hitting, and it certainly can go to personal preference. I tend to be the same. I'm a fairly defensive game caller, but when you need points, you best bet I'll call the draw. and ideally make it too. It's not just about calling the game, it's making the shots too.
Eighth end, pretty important to score. It would be really nice to score 2. I'd really like to see them actually, if they went around that corner, because it just, you could actually use them if you were, you know, later in the end, if you had to, you actually use those where they're top 12. You could actually use them as guards and come around, you know, back 4, back 8, and still be shot over the ones that are in the rings. But
yeah, or even tap them around, really.
Yeah.
They're playing the double here, but the risk is you go over the top, and guess what?
So
this is about Ladouceur is going to do right now.
That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Now she can go up. She can peel the guard.
Okay, so she's not doing it. I totally thought she'd be peeling that guard. This is a very aggressive call here. I should stop my predictions.
Hey, I'm doing it too, so I'm just as much at fault.
I hope Brian's making notes over there. They're laughing at us. You guys think the peel's the right call too, right? Brian will talk to them about it. I half hoped that would wick, but I guess that would leave a center guard. They have to get this in the rings if they're going to play the draw.
And really, that is the issue with going around, because you have to make that shot perfect. And if you don't make it perfect, then...
If you throw the peel and you whiff it, at least you don't have another guard for them. That's, yeah. Oh, might not be in. That's unfortunate. Maybe they're having second thoughts now. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I can't tell Isabel. Like I was saying earlier, she gets flustered, and I can't tell if she would have called that differently in hindsight. We try to guess what they'll do, and it's so different when you're out there, so you're behind the glass and everything's so obvious, and there's 2 people talking about what's the right call, and in the heat of the moment, you're up 2, and you go, oh, gee, I could sit 2.
I could really bury this game.
Yeah, around a corner guard, and I don't have hammer. So that one's open, but it's so your guard's going to remain. You'll get another chance to make that draw. I think Team Carson knows they're in it to score this end, whether it's 1 or 2.
So it's really important now that no matter what happens here, this is behind the tee line. They got to generate some offense, team in this end, because obviously it's the 8th end. You got to score at least 1 now, because it's definitely not going to be blank.
And that one ran at that Yellowstone pretty hard, so leaves the Carson blue stone biting the back 4-foot, sitting 1. There's still a corner guard here. An opportunity to go around that corner again.
And that's, again, if they would have got rid of that corner guard earlier, then perhaps this may not have been here. But you know what?
Well, if we can't predict what they're going to do, at least we can be right about it.
I've been wrong before, so I can't say I'm always right, but...
Me too. Just don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I ruin all my credibility. All right. So... a draw around the corner guard, and in the words of, I think it's from the great Colleen, Christmas tree. So the shot bluestone isn't directly buried, but if you put this one, if you kind of wedge it in between, and it looks like ornaments hanging off the side of a Christmas tree, partially revealing there, you can see.
Now they got to be shot over that other one, I guess.
Oh, and it's light. Uh-oh. That was a bit of a sweeping error there. That was sweeper's weight, and we've seen that all game. Is the sweepers getting fooled a little bit by the...
I think the ice conditions might be changing, because those rocks were definitely gliding a lot more earlier in the game. I do believe that it is slowing down in the 4-foot path. It might be something to keep an eye on.
Like the sweepers don't seem worried until it's too late. That's the hard thing about not knowing what's happening. This one's curling too. They got this one by. So it's a good shot. You still have those guards there, though.
Even though they're sitting for I think you have to go around those corners because you're stuck in the fact that, that's Shane just called another timeout for Team Carson. I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I would bet that he's going to tell them to come around that corner guard.
Yeah, you do have the roll. Stephanie called the bigger roll over behind those guards. So you have the draw as an option. You could hit, if you really want to hit, you could hit and roll the other way, which puts you in a freeze position against the back yellow as well.
Yes. But the thing is, you're in a position, you know that you're going to be either giving up points or scoring points. So you know it's not going to be a blank. So your best opportunity is, in my view, you got to go and try and get your deuce. And the best way to do it would be to come around those guards. But
it's unfortunate that their angle, the Christmas tree look is so good with the offset, but now it's hurting. You might have to go the wide side. And if they're not comfortable with that, I still don't think that hit and roll off the back 8 foot into the back 12 is the end of the world if you elect to play the hit. But I think trying to roll across behind those guards is just setting you up for a roll out.
Yeah, and that's a tough roll. It's much easier to make that draw than it is, again, to make that perfect hit and roll. But we'll see what Shane has to say here. Well, I don't know if you noticed, Selena, but on sheet D, Notting just stole 3. So right now you're looking at a score of 10-3 going into the 8th end. Obviously, Notting's in good control of that game.
That is a big, yes.
So, in fact, that's what Shane did tell them to do, was to play that draw.
And it came up. It's in the rings, but it's
good weight, but the line was off just a bit.
Yeah, it ticked the. Oh, it didn't tick the guard. I thought it ticked that guard.
It did.
Oh, did it?
It ticked the second guard.
That's what I get for watching the other game. So the interesting thing here, we've seen Ladouceur want to roll behind those guards and had wanted to draw behind either, but you can't make that roll now or else you jam. So hitting and sitting is not the end of the world. Just make sure you don't jam. Get rid of that blue stone. If your shooter rolls out, who cares? Be nice to keep it around. You just don't want to jam this, baby. Got away with that.
Actually worked out pretty good.
So is there that draw still there and maybe just wick off the yellow? It's available. I don't know if I would play it with hit weight. Rolling too far, but just play the draw, and if you get a little wick, that's pretty good.
Personally, myself, when I look at this shot, I don't mind at this point playing the hit and roll for 2 reasons, because it's close by, and number 2, if you don't make the draw perfectly, that draw is that is actually make your draw harder with that rock being there. So not.
Yeah, true.
I don't mind playing the hit and roll on this shot.
So I suspect they're going to just be playing this with similar weight, maybe a control or up control. The risk with playing more is if you don't have the angle right, you roll too far one direction or another. You can certainly use your sweepers more with a bit of down weight. Well, this looks like a fair amount. She's a little tippy. It's close.
This looks like it's kind of a little bit.
Yeah, it really is moving. I get the big roll. And it's not going to hang around. Rolls out.
Now, the good news is the house is definitely, you know, it's more open.
Oh, yeah, it's open for the score. Yep.
So that's why I didn't mind the hit and roll on that shot.
But, of course, Isabelle Ladouceur is going to do her best to try and prevent any kind of... It's really hard to prevent the other skip from drawing corner guards. She could come around those corner guards and sit in the 4-foot, and then it'll be a draw to the full 4 of the button. I think the call here is to leave it top house and block the center line. And we did have handshakes. So Team Notting will pick up the win over Team Daly. And
so
they will move on to play. One second
Callie
here.
Moore.
It'll be Callie Moore tomorrow at noon. And here's Isabelle in the 8th. I thought I heard a 2, which is a guard. And it is a...
Ladies drug that a long way.
Yeah, we're saying that's maybe it's not sweepers ice, but maybe they're just throwing them light. So as predicted, a draw for the single. Drawing against 3, but they're in the foot, so just needs to bite 8 here for Stephanie Carson. And she's done this a couple times already. Made some nice draws.
Well, she can make this draw. The game is far from over, that's for sure. You're only down 1, playing the 9th end. Big shot here.
Sweepers were backing off, and now they're back on. I think they're picking up on the...
Yeah, it's definitely
things are
adjusting.
slowing down. And this one looks pretty nice.
That's a nice draw. Very well done.
Nervous moments, but a great shot right to the 4-foot, and that'll be a score of 1. So brings it to 5-4. Ladouceur will now have Hammer playing 9. And Team Carson will have to, they'll be up first. So I think we will see a guard. There's no way they're going to put this one in the rings. And you kind of, the way I look at this is you can go for a steal or a 4. They're not all that different.
No.
You're trying to limit the other team's ability to score, and in doing so, you usually set yourself up with something around the button.
I would consider us veteran curlers, Selena. I'm sure you've played enough games where you were down 2 and managed to get a 3-ender in the last end to win. So it's definitely possible. So
Yep.
if you can hold them to a force.
I've given them up too.
Oh yeah, works both ways. So.
Yep.
But certainly, if you were able to give up a 1-ender, you know, like a 1, I mean, just a deuce would put you into an extra end, but. I mean, plenty of times I've seen teams get 3 or more. So we'll see what happens.
And the same thing here, too, if Isabelle can put a nice end together and, you know the other team's trying to force you, and sometimes they try so hard. I kind of make this joke sometimes is you get forced into 3 or 4. Like you've got these ones around the 12, but and the other team's trying so hard to steal, and they don't make their shots perfectly that you can have a good chance. So anybody's game at any point, really. That's what makes curling so fun and frustrating. So this is Michaela. And that is a big miss there. When you have hammer and you're okay with not scoring, keeping hammer up 1, you don't really like to see a guard of your color out front.
This will definitely increase the odds of someone scoring this end and taking the blank away with 2 guards up there. Just because I suspect that Stephanie Carson's team will try to, pose some aggression in this end. So, but we'll see what happens.
Bit of a slip there, but nice recovery. Looked like she got it out to the broom there, Megan. And that's hard because your slide's interrupted, so you got to give a push, and you don't know how much. Last time I did that, I pushed it and put it on the pin, so maybe Megan can do the same. This looks pretty good. They're working to get it in there, right to the 4-foot. Nicely done. Good recovery.
Perfect draw weight.
She's laughing. So you can see it. Like just playing a soft weight. Maybe, like I was saying, keep your shooter around the side 12 would be nice here. You don't have to roll under. You don't have to play too cute. If you ever clip that front blue and don't remove it, it's a tick shot. We are still in the free guard zone here on lead rocks. You could push the blue into the yellow guard. There's lots of things that can happen here.
Good looking shot.
Or you can just make the called and hit the stone on the nose. The only thing about not rolling,
the shot is a little bit easier now.
Yeah, there's a hit and roll here, and it seems like maybe the hit and rolls are easier shots on this ice today. Seen a few more hit and rolls made, I think, than, perfect come-arounds.
I think Madison might have pushed this one out a little bit.
She'd love to stick her shooter here. Even if it's on the side, it's that brings the force into play.
That's the dilemma for Isabel right now. Do you hit it? And the thing is, if you hit and roll out, then the other team gets the free draw.
Yeah, and you have the free drop. That peel is still a really.
That is true.
And maybe you peel and you get both of those front ones gone. And so what if the other team sits 2, they miss, you have a hit, and you can blank the end. I think a peel would be my call here, but I've been known to say that before. And if you make the draw, it's a good shot too.
So this is really it's about as good as it gets for a steal opportunity. If she can, I guess it's Madison again. If she can get down here and well, if you freeze one, you essentially have the force for sure.
Yeah, this is such a good opportunity here. You don't get given too many gifts in the game of curling, but there's one right here. And this team is just not getting them to curl on these draws. Beautiful weight, sweeper's weight and everything.
I think she might be just releasing that out just a hair, just enough to kind of.
Yeah, the team doesn't seem too concerned. Like, they're not saying you were out. She must just throw like that, and that's something where if it's affecting your shots on the ice, at some point you just decide to ice it. And say, okay, consistently you are half a rock wide, so we just move the broom in half a rock.
I've seen Madison play a lot of years as well, and she's a very, very accomplished curler. So I normally expect her to make shots like that. She's a very good player.
That's actually really good to remove that back stone. That was hurting Team Ladouceur. So nice shot there. And that was Kate Callahan, wasn't it? So we're down to mate stones.
So this is a very aggressive call to come around and play the draw. And it's a tough one because if you get the back one, Isabel's going to come around those guards anyway. So if you make one really good here, it definitely will, definitely help your cause. But we'll see what the outcome is.
Yeah, I think it doesn't even have to be second stone. The only thing is it's open, so Ladouceur's team can stick around. It's one of the first times we've seen Team Carson be aggressive when it comes down to it. She was playing defensive with hammer before and now aggressive without.
Now this one looks wide.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't look like it's making contact with the blue. Might get the yellow at the back, and uh-oh.
That's unfortunate.
Uh-oh. Emily won't be happy with that.
She's not the only one who's missed that like that. I mean, we've all done it, and you feel terrible when it happens. And
this is interesting, Anthony. Going around the other way, I feel like you could make a really nice little tap, split your own stones on the other side. You're coming around your opponent's yellow stone here. That's my only hesitation. I don't think they have any timeouts left.
But if they do bury one this way, it certainly will work out for them, because essentially they'll have that control zone all blocked off, but the weight has to be bang on.
And I remember earlier there was a draw for 3 that Isabelle Ladouceur had, and it hung a little wide too. Now this one's just a little heavy. Does stop for shot stone.
Now, if that would have been about 3 or 4 feet lighter, that would have been for them. They could have finished it a little bit and half tucked it, and Isabel would actually be in quite a bit of trouble. But
yeah, there's backing now, and it's open.
Well, Isabel's committed now. I mean, there's three in the rings.
Yeah, she wants to score now. There's no blank, so just score. Sweepers are saying this is nice sweeper's way to hair down. You don't have to move it. You just have to sit in front.
Again, this one looks wide.
Yeah, they're trying to carve it. They really work on their carving when they're trying to.
It's actually going to work out pretty good, though.
Yeah, it's a nice shot.
That finished nice.
And that's that better weight. Just that you get your sweeper to work on it, and you know that it's the right weight. It will take that curl. It's the first really good one we've seen there, I think. Maybe one earlier. Seeing what you can see from the hack.
The critical thing here is to not overthrow this. If you actually end up, well, it is overburied, so you just don't want to fly by everything. That was a really good recovery shot by Emily. Funny how that happens. You whiff one, and then the next one you put a dime right on there. So it's
like that extra pressure.
Yeah.
I find that's what makes like the really good curlers is when everything's on the line, they get better. We watched that, I think, with at the Roar of the Rings, like Kevin Cooey's team. They just got better. They more pressure. They just played better. If they don't care, oh, and this one's gonna wreck on the guard. Well, it opens things up a little bit, but I don't know that that benefits Team Carson to have it open. It's an interesting situation, isn't it? With
it sure is,
guards and
you could almost play, well, you could almost hit your own and
it's just a little scary because if there's ever a tap on that yellow stone, or sorry, the blue stone into a shot position, you've got overlapping guards and no way to score.
I wonder if it's
tap your own in. Try and open things up a little bit and block off the blue tap, but that's so tight you'd have to be, no, that's not there. Another option is to, maybe an unpopular opinion, is to hit that blue stone in the top 12 foot and leave your shooter there, and then it's promotable.
Exactly. If you can just leave it there, and if they make something good, you have something maybe to run in if they do make something good on your next one. But
yeah, because that hole between the guards, to access shot stones, not huge. So I mean, I think that Stephanie would promote the blue stone instead of hitting the yellow.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
don't think a guard helps you here. I actually, the more I think about it, the more I like hitting that blue.
They can definitely use that against you, so.
Yeah, I think that's the call here too.
Now Carson on their next one, he hits and sticks here. I would think she'll come through that hole.
Yeah. But you're kind of forcing the harder shot with this.
Absolutely.
And giving yourself, so even if Stephanie does make that hit through the port, you have your own stone to raise for a single. That's been a very interesting end.
We got a timeout coming?
Yep.
You have a timeout coming. Be interesting what Brian's going to tell these guys.
I know. He might disagree with us because normally you don't see a timeout when the coach agrees with the call. Now they're thinking, okay, what does he see that we don't see?
I'm just thinking because of the score, you look at, how late the game is in the end. Personally, I like hitting that top one in the 12-foot. They might use that against you, so. But again, you don't get much more experience than Brian Rayfuse. Certainly knows what he's on a strategy.
No,
he knows what he's doing.
I mean, there's double peel. There's shots. The double peel. There's a lot of ways it can go wrong.
Yep.
He likes the guard. Huh.
He likes the guard, and then
he's just saying they may not make that raise. You got to make them make the shot versus you, and that's fair. He's saying if you guard that hole, they have to make a perfect tap. It's just if I don't like assuming that the other team's not going to make the good tap.
I think we both disagree with Brian.
We do. We'll have to have a discussion with him later on. And he will vehemently defend his opinion.
For sure. I can definitely see the logic on both.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes in curling, there's two ways to look at it, and that's what makes this sport so unique. It's, somebody might see it one way, another person might see it another.
Yeah. The difference here is you either make them make a good shot, which is this, or you leave yourself something, which is what we're saying, if you have a stone out front. Funny, my team all the time, I skip but I throw third, and our last rock thrower, her name's Liz, and our motto could be, just leave Liz a shot. Like, we just need to leave her something. And that's the way we play the game. And that's where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Versus, make the hard one. This looks like
Well, she got a
perfect.
beautiful guard.
Absolutely.
She did what Brian asked, so now the shot, I think, is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Now you got to put the broom in the right spot.
And he certainly did force them into this. They're saying for a hit, we would put the broom right in the middle of the rock. So for a tap, I think that the difference is you're playing a tap, it's more like a draw. So you put the broom down for, you know, a little tighter than what you would draw. Because, of course, you're going to throw back house weight, and you're hitting the stone in the top house. So you need a little bit less ice than you would for the draw in the same spot.
But, you know, even if you tap it up a couple feet and you make the shot a little harder, it's going to be a tough draw. Like, if they tap that up, and, yeah, they're not quite shot, but they say you get a biter of the forefoot or something.
It's a force.
It's going to be a very difficult shot for Isabel to score too. So, you know, like we said at the beginning of the opening end, if you can force Team Carson, or actually Team force Isabel Ladouceur to 1, it's really not that bad a situation.
And if this is heavy and wide, you can kind of promote it into the Yellowstone.
Chip it right in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways.
Looks like the weight is good. And that is a perfect shot.
Ooh, what a good shot. Holy cow. I don't think she could have made that any better. I don't think there's any old draw to the pin.
In that, I don't know, it's just a couple ways of looking at it. That's the only reason why I didn't like leaving that rock there.
Oh, yeah, certainly. It was exactly what we talked about, and she, beautiful shot from Stephanie Carson with not really much help from the sweeper. She did that all on her own. And there's not even a double on the blues because it jams, and wow.
I guess it's too risky to run back that yellow one up there and pick yours right out of there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you...
You'd have to skinny your own yellow. The one that was just thrown, the guard?
Well, yeah, the one that you could actually run that back, and I don't know if there's any risk in it. I think everything is lined up to jam.
That's true, yeah. Even if you hit it onto your own, you might go into... Yeah.
And it actually would be for two. It's a hard shot, but certainly this is no gimme.
No, but Isabel's been pretty rock solid. So drawing to the pin, no backing. Not that far, but maybe just a little heavy, huh? Yeah.
It's a really good try.
So, wow, what a turn of events there. A steal of 1 for Team Carson brings this game to a tie after 9. Ladouceur, after to that end, tied. We'll have hammer in our last end. And I'm going to assume that someone will score in a tie game. And we won't have an extra. It's getting late. Good thing they don't play till noon.
I got to be here tomorrow for 7:30, so I'm hoping that it does go to extra. You are more than
welcome to peace out a little early if you feel the need to do so.
No, I'm all right. Really critical, obviously, to get this, you know, in the free guard zone. Set it up in the center line. Looks like Megan threw a pretty good rock here.
So same setup as last end, really. Needs a guard. And we did have that miss from Team Ladouceur. Remember last end, it was Michaela that came up light, and that rock stuck around all end. Those guards did stick around all end, actually, the first two.
That's a really good shot. That's what we would call, well, a lot of teams would call a 1. So you have your 1, 2, and 3 guard. Just areas within the free guard zone, and 1 is basically close to the hog line, 2 would be kind of right in the middle, and then 3 is close to the rings. So if the next rock you put up a guard goes in that 3 zone, you really have set yourself up to a good opportunity to steal. So though Isabel looks like she's playing the tick shot.
Sure is.
That's a hard shot to make. Some teams like to come around on a shot like that, maybe put a top 8, kind of control that area. Other teams like to play the tick shot. I guess it's whatever you practice a lot and what you feel comfortable with.
You know what I like to play?
Off to the wing?
Yeah. I'm giving away all my secrets.
Hey.
It's your insurance rock.
It is.
But it
if
has
you
to
hit
be
and roll
at the
out, then
back.
you have something.
Yeah, it has to be at the back of the house. And so, you know, it's almost like you throw it through, but you just stick around at the back. You have a fondness for that shot.
Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with that option as well.
This one looks quite light.
It has to get over. Well, it's over.
And Isabel still can't appeal, so she'll play the tick again. A little more ice. The nice thing about this is you can, with those blues being so high and so close together, you can kind of tick them into each other and lose your shooter and move them around, at least one of them, get them away from the center line.
Where you're moving 2 rocks, too, you can throw a little bit more weight.
This one was tight, though. I might play this over the top. It's got lots of weight, that's for sure. And didn't get lucky enough.
She was close, though. She was... That over curls a little bit more. Maybe missed that one by about an inch.
All right, so game on.
What do you like here, Selena? Do you like coming in, or do you like putting one top 3 zone?
I think you gotta do a 3 zone. Those guards are overlapped and totally peelable, and they're high.
I agree with you.
They're very high, so I'd put one tight. You can be top 12, and it's still a guard. We'll see where Madison puts this one. You don't want to be deep, because if you're putting this in at this point, this is your steal
counter
shot.
Yep.
And if it's open, I think Isabel hit it and stick her stone in the rings. And she might prove me wrong again, because she's talking about appeal, but you can see this rock, and I think here's a good chance to get your insurance rock in the rings. Hit the shot stone and roll over to the side, and then you're a little bit home free. But this is not a bad call either.
No, I certainly don't mind this peel shot. I actually kind of like it. And if you ever hit and roll out, I mean, they're going to do the same thing. But I understand what you're saying, too, is if you hit and stick, it's definitely insurance. So it's just preference.
Can you tell the part of what I do for a living is recommend that people buy insurance on their home? If you're buying a home, insure it. If you have hammer tied, insure it.
So right now, I would say it's a great opportunity for Carson to come around and bury one top button with the O-turn. The opportunity is now to actually go and get that steal point.
It's tough, because with where that is right now, it's not a good steal point, but that guard is so high too. Like I think you kind of have to put the tight guard in.
You could, yep.
And draw later. And actually, you probably lose the yellow guard, and then you'll be able to come around later to the button. And all these things that we're saying are all, you know, it's personal preference. Everyone has different opinions. We differed from the coach in the last 10, and we differ from each other here. And it really goes to it's really interesting to see, like, even through this game, both teams have had aggressive and defensive styles of play, and I think they're still figuring out exactly what their strengths are. You know, what do we like to play? What is our game? What works for us?
But it's interesting, I find, that when you look at the two teams, they're well polished on their strategy. They have a good idea of what they're doing. They seem to have a good game plan.
Yeah, they're thinking about
It's quite
things.
impressive, actually.
Yeah. They're not just putting the broom down and hoping for the best. And everyone on the team, both teams seem to be on the same page as well. Going for this double peel.
Wow.
And it nuts, but the front is clear. That's a wonderful shot.
That's a great shot.
And with, so that top 8 stone was, you know, potentially maybe steal point. Now it's in the top 12. So all Isabelle Ladouceur is thinking is, I have to draw to the full 8 at this point. That's the way this goes.
It's still a good situation for Team Carson, though. I mean, you have one top 12. You're going to basically be stuck guard for the rest of the end.
And then on your last, you'll loop it around.
You loop it around or make a perfect tap. It's, but probably looping around was probably the easier way to make the shot.
This one has to stop, though. It's pretty good. It's tight, but it is covering the stone. Straight peel. You can make the run back if you go for the run and it dead nuts it and you hit it on the nose, and I think that's going to be unfortunate. So you might just play the straight peel or play it on the side of center line that lets you make the double. Although this one is wide.
That looked like a different release on that one. I'm not sure what happened there. She made the shot though. This one counts.
Single peel. Yeah, it's a good shot. Yeah, it just kind of looked like it floated out, and I think it was just a little bit of that space. All right. Isabelle Reeves. Her second of 2 in this 10th end tie game. For the guard again, and I'll just remind everyone that both the men's and women's draws will be broadcast on sheets C and D tomorrow here on Bell TV 1. We're happy to have you joining us. And those games tomorrow and Friday will be at 8, 12, 4, and 8. The schedule and results and live scores are all on nscurl.com. There's another peel called here. Keep it clean, that's the name of the game. You can get a little lucky on this one too, I think.
If you actually made it perfect, you're probably gonna. Well, I think you can make it within shooter as well if you throw it hard enough.
Yeah. There's that big turn and turn back. I'm curious. I don't know that much about how releases like that affect the stone, but it's interesting to watch.
She's accurate. She's an accurate thrower.
Yeah. What a great shot! Holy cow! I think that's the shot of the game right there. Emily Prue. I won't question her release. She makes those shots all the time.
No, she does it. That's the way she throws. So
yeah,
you can't question
really,
it.
No, it's interesting to watch for sure. There's a lot of the top elite curlers that have a little bit of that, and I think what it does is it gets that, it keeps it straight. It puts a lot of rotation on it, but you get a lot of curl at the end too. Of course, not on a shot like that.
No.
And other people, feel free to correct me. Feel free to correct me on the release, and feel free to let me know what the hammer is from, because I seriously have no idea.
And if you find out, let me know.
I will. All right. So Team Carson, you got to just put the guard up, hope for a miss. If you don't have the miss, then you draw. That was a very good shot from Emily Prue. We may be seeing hints of why this Ladouceur team is in the Scotties provincials next month.
Quite a well-played game, actually. It was the first part of the game was quite slow pace, but it was a lot of interesting ends actually through, I'd say, about the 4th end on, and it's good to see.
It's been a very good spectator game. Can't ask for much more than tied playing 10. Unless you're cheering for one of the teams and then you wish it were different. But we're unbiased.
We are.
All right, looking for the peel here. It's Ladouceur on her first shot. Sweepers just making sure they keep that high of the center line. Roll that shooter over as far as possible. If it's going to stick around, you want it to be over as far. So a little glimmer of hope here for Team Carson. Try and draw, buried around that yellow corner guard. And if it's not visible, then I think Isabel will have a draw to the 4-foot for the win.
Starting to curl.
Looks heavy to me. Sweepers are walking pretty fast with it. They'd like this one to stop. Line looks good. Just has to hang
slow
around.
Down a little bit. Probably back 8.
Oh, that really dug. Wow. All right, so it's a draw to the full 8 or 4-foot. Not even looking to see what's visible because the draw is the call here. Last rock in 10. This is for the win for Isabel Ladouceur. Winner of this game goes on to play Caitlin Jones tomorrow at noon. And I wonder if I can tell you if that game will be broadcast.
I believe it is.
It is. That'll be on sheet D. It will be broadcast at noon. So Isabel Ladouceur.
Draw the 4-foot. Looks warm.
We have seen them come down. Last stone did as well, but the sweepers don't love this one.
No.
It's trying, but it'll slip a little too deep, and that will be the second steal in a row and a win for Team Carson. And that'll be it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Anthony will be early
Yes.
for the men's draw at 8 o'clock here on Bell TV1 from everyone here at the Lakeshore Curling Club. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you at the AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Provincial Junior Curling Championships tomorrow. Have a good night.